It's a privilege to have all the candidates here tonight. I will tell you that this is a forum in exactly that. The opportunity tonight is for everyone to have an opportunity to learn a little more about the candidates, get to meet them, them to express their views to you. It will be moderated by our Fairview High School students. We'll have them introduce themselves in just a moment. We want to thank them for taking their time to do this. They did our City Commission Forum last week and did an outstanding job, and we look forward to the same thing tonight. At the conclusion of the forum, we would encourage everyone to hang around, mingle as much as you like. This is an opportunity to kind of discuss things with everyone, so please take the time to do that. Make yourself at home. If you need anything from the city while you're here, please let me know or Brandy Johnson up front. We'll be glad to assist you any way we can to make sure you're comfortable for your time here tonight. So with that, we want to thank you for coming out, thank the candidates for coming out. We'll turn it over to Fairview High School, and we look forward to an entertaining and informative night tonight. So thank you again.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's Mayoral Forum. We would like to thank the city for giving us this opportunity to moderate this evening again. Your first moderator this evening will be Cole King.
And our other moderator for tonight will be Elizabeth Boulay. Okay. Disclaimer.
The first disclaimer will be the City of Fairview does not endorse any candidates for the role of mayor. The city is acting as a site host for the forum as a service to our citizens.
Please silence any electronic devices. We request no outbursts, comments, or applause from the crowd. The event is being televised live, recorded, and posted to YouTube for later viewing. The recorded voices can be difficult to understand when mixed with background noise. So, each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves and describe their interests serving as Fairview's mayor. We'll start with Mr. Mike Anderson.
Good evening. My name is David Mike Anderson. Moved to Fairview about 4.5 years ago. We moved from Nashville, Tennessee. I was born in Nashville at the end of the Second World War. Grew up in Western Kentucky and started my building career there and went on to Lexington, Owensboro, and then down here, and then later on to Houston and New Mexico, Florida, North Carolina, just a tad in Indiana. But anyway, my whole background is in construction. I built various items or things throughout subdivisions, community centers, retirement community, and just been on the other side of the table for a long time. I retired about 5 or 6 years ago. That it brought to my attention that some of my friends wanted me to run for mayor, and here I am. I'm retired and have the time.
Mr. John Blade.
Good evening, I'm John Blade, and I have been in Fairview for 30 years. It's been my honor to serve the folks at 3 of the 4 different banks here in this community. I have been an active part of the community. I've been an active part of the chamber, past treasurer of the chamber. I sit on various cemetery boards, and I'm proud to do that and to serve in that capacity. I am excited about this race. I have met so many great people. I'd like to thank these 2 gentlemen on each side of me for the kindness that they've shown me and the integrity that we've had in this race. I would simply let you know that I'm here. I will listen. I will make wise, informed, and intelligent decisions, and I will represent you, as I always have. And I ask you for your vote. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Antoine Scruggs.
Hello, my name is Antoine Scruggs. I'm running for Fairview Mayor for you. I've been servicing people here for a few years in finance, but I come from the Air Force. My whole life has been dedicated to serving others. I've always put my life on the line, no matter what. When it comes to servicing people, I like to position myself where I can be surveyed and tested, where people can see and it's documented that I give elite customer service. I hate that I'm so new, I really do, because it saddens me that I can't service myself because I haven't built that relationship and that reputation because I haven't been here in Fairview. I've seen people's lives destroyed spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially. And I see that same thing doing what I do in finance here in Fairview, and I want to be able to make a difference. I don't want to change anything. All I want to do is be able to add to the Fairview's culture. Thank you so much for your time. If you would love to have me, I would morally appreciate your service. so I can serve you and just be a voice. That's it.
Thank you. We will be rotating the question order this evening. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer their question, and there will be no time for rebuttal. The first set of questions is focused on the platform of the role of the city's mayor.
Mr. Anderson, what are the top 3 issues or concerns the citizens of Fairview have expressed to you during your campaign, and which one would you focus on first as mayor?
Well, there's been more than 3. Some of them are things out of the realms of the city council and the mayor of Fairview. Roads, transportation, speed limits. The second issue I think was most prominent was the financial stability of the city. So many of the citizens feel that they're not getting the information to know how the city is spending the money, and I think it's based on problems in the past, but it is a deep concern to many of the citizens here. The other thing is that seems to be bothering the people when they come to me is the traffic flow, not only just the bad roads, but the traffic flow down Highway 100. And so when you look at that, you have to make sure you understand that a lot of those things are outside the city's responsibility.
Mr. Blade.
The top 3 for me, number 1 would be growth. Most people have asked me, how do you want us to grow? What kind of growth will be best for us? And I'm honored to sit on the Planning Commission steering committee for the comprehensive plan that is in place right now, whereby all of you citizens are enabled to come to those sessions and tell us what you want growth to be. So I would refer to that plan once it's in place and follow that to the letter. That will let the Board of Commissioners and the mayor know what the people want for growth. The second topic has been our water and sewer situation. We must preserve and protect our water source. We know that. The Water Authority of Dixon County is currently the ones who service our water and our sewer. It would be my hope that we would be able to garner a position or a seat on that board whereby the city of Fairview would have input into those decisions that ultimately affect us on any day-to-day basis or any decision that might become before them. The third thing has been transparency. Our Board of Commissioners has done an excellent job, especially in this year, of making sure the financials are updated on the website, making for sure that you as a concerned citizen have access to any and all information that you need. And I would just tell you that I would make that even stronger and better if there is a way to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Scruggs.
My experience is one is congestion. I meet people that tell me all the time that they're leaving Fairview because there's way too many people. With the way traffic is, there's no detours on how to get to the commute of your job or where you want to go. Another thing is Fairview growing too fast, not taking care of the people that's already here before we take care of the newcomers. Everybody is welcome, but can we expand on what we already have, build upon what Fairview has already? Now, losing trust in government is another issue. I've heard many times that the government only cares about itself and not the people. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard it from more people than I have from the people who has the trust in government. I really want to help rebuild that trust by having integrity, service before self, definitely listening to the registered voters, even the people that do live here that are not registered, to make sure they're heard. At the end of the day, the people are the boss, not the government. I want to make sure if someone comes to me with inquiry or concern, that I hear them, and I make sure we produce what's being said from the citizens of Fairview.
Is there a specific issue or concern of your own that prompted you to run for mayor? And if so, how do you plan to address it, Mr. Blade?
The main objective that prompted me to run was to continue my service to this town. I love this town. I love its people. I've been called to serve in many fashions and have stepped up to the plate and served those fashions. And I've been asked in several past elections, why don't you run for mayor? We'd love to have you run for mayor. And the timing just wasn't right. And I believe now the time is right, and I know that my heart is right, and I'm ready to lead this city into becoming one of the greatest cities in Tennessee. Thank you.
Mr. Scruggs?
My specific issue is for those that's low income or those who have a lot of money. The ones in the middle have nowhere to live here. The rent is either too low where they make enough money where they can't live there because they make too much of an income, and they don't have enough money to buy a house that costs over $400,000 to $500,000. So the middle class is out of luck when it comes to living here in Fairview. When it comes to working here, they're not making enough money to maintain that lifestyle. So they only can use our services as Walmart, Publix, come here and have fun, but they can't live here. It's not that they can't afford it. There's nowhere to live. That's all. I want to make sure we can have that cost of living for all parts of financial residents here. Whether you're low income, middle class, or high class, I want all to be able to live here if that's their choice.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes, I think I've been on the Planning and Zoning Board for a year and a half now, and sitting on the other side of the table, like I said before. Everybody has talked about the growth that this is supposed to be coming with to this city as a bedroom community for Nashville. It's going to come whether we want it or not. It has been somewhat curtailed because the city did not have a codes and development guidelines that were consistent in their delivery to the developers. So therefore, the city has spent a lot of money and a lot of time working on perfecting the correct codes and guidelines for the developers to come here. In that process, the city's wishes of how they want this city to grow, wanting better quality houses without being too expensive and sidewalks and just better roads for the community. Those things have been incorporated in the new development guidelines, and that's one of the main things that I feel that needs to be pushed forward, and that's what I want to do if I'm elected mayor.
Mr. Scruggs, have you found that most citizens or voters are more interested or less interested in city leadership than you thought they were? What makes you believe so?
Here in Fairview, I found out not too many people vote. I found out how many people voted yesterday here, and the numbers are drastically low. But how many people that live here, only half really vote for Fairview mayor. You know what that tells me? No one cares about the government here, a lot. The people that do are very passionate about it. I would like to see more people participate in voting here in Fairview, to have a voice, to see who you want to be your leader, because at the end of the day, you are the boss. If you have concerns, people need to stand up so we all can be a voice. Teamwork definitely makes the dream work, and that's something as a leader I would like to see. I would like to see more voters each election stand up and speak up for what do they want for their city. How can you say what you want if you don't vote? When you vote, you make a voice for yourself. I would love to see more people participate in the election. I would love that because it brings everybody together. Make sure everybody's involved as a family.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Yes, sir. People that I have talked to that are registered to vote seem to be passionate. I kind of found the opposite of what my competitor is saying. They all are concerned. They bring up the issues of the roads, the traffic, the planning. They've heard about the moratorium on PUDs. They don't understand what that means and why that's been put in the newspaper. And they're just passionate about everything that they come up with line items and things that I would have thought they hadn't heard of. And at the internet today, people are looking up things and popping up questions and issues that you'd think would be on the back burner. But so I don't find that the people that I've talked to are lackadaisical about whether they vote or not. I find the ones that are registered to vote are highly interested in this city and seeing it go forward.
Thank you. Mr. Blade.
I, too, have found the citizens to be very interested in their leadership and in their city government. There are many things, such as the budget, that they don't understand. I need to work with our current Board of Commissioners and our city manager to help educate the folks on what those line items are in the budget, what a budget is, why do we prepare one, why do we stick to it. But my associations in my campaign have been very, very positive with people wanting to support government and wanting government to do well. And it would be my goal to help all those folks understand all that it is that they want and need to know in order for them to be an informed citizen.
Mr. Blade, what steps would you take to develop the position of mayor into more of a leadership role than a co-worker role with regards to the Board of Commissioners?
Is this one too?
Did you say that's me or Mr. Anderson?
Mr. Blade.
It's my turn, okay. I think that the answer to that would be to become more involved in the day-to-day operations of the city as it relates to supporting the city manager. We are a city manager-run town. The Board of Commissioners is his boss, so to speak. We need to make for sure that we're giving him all the tools and all the necessary items and instruments that he needs to be successful. Our Board of Commissioners, in my opinion, have done an excellent job of that. And it would just be my intention for us to continue that, to continue to support him so that he can support his staff of the city. And as we know, the employees of the city are one of the city's greatest assets. So we need to make for sure that we take care of them as well.
Mr. Scruggs?
When I went to the commissioner forum last week, Shannon Crutcher implied that a lot of concerns and inquiries from the citizens go to the mayor. And one thing the mayor can do is to step up, and when they have a concern coming from the citizens, is let the commissioners know what's going on. Keep them involved with what the citizens are saying so the citizens can know that something is being done, that the mayor spoke up. The mayor should definitely put their foot down if there's something that needs to be done, if there's a concern that seems like everyone isn't on board, on the same page, that they can show that leadership that, hey, this is what's going on, this is what I'm hearing from the people, this is what needs to be done. They definitely shouldn't just be a co-worker role, be a yes man. That's something I definitely want to do. I definitely want to listen to the city and say, this is what's going on, this is what I'm hearing, this is what we need to get done. When it comes to the budget, no matter what it is, when it comes to the concerns of the city of Fairview, they definitely need to speak up as a voice for the city, not just because they're mayor or because they're part of the board, it's because they're representing the city.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes, well, I started my professional career after I got out of the Navy as an independent supply guy on a submarine. I learned how to be self-sustaining, and it's much different than being in a Air Force or a big aircraft carrier in the Navy. But when I started my construction companies, along with my wife and the men that I hired, I always had to listen to what they had to say as we were doing the work, or it wouldn't be done correctly. As I became a developer and bigger guy and president of a large building development company, I had to hire a team of people that would work with me and listen to what they said. If I am elected mayor, you have 4 other people that have the same vote that I have. So you have to work as a team. You can disagree on any issue, but you have to come together on the ones that make the best sense to make the city of Fairview go forward. You can't just sit there and be a bullhead and not listen to what the other 4 people say. You've got to make a coalition. You've got to listen to them and work together on the issues.
Just a reminder, could you guys please speak clearly into the mic so everyone can hear? Mr. Scruggs, as new mayor, what area of the city government do you believe would be the most challenging aspect for the job aspects of the job for you to become familiar with, and what area would you initially understand the most?
Can you repeat that?
Yes. As new mayor, what area of city government do you believe would be most challenging aspect of the job for you to become familiar with, and what area would you initially understand the most?
The most challenging aspect is to know that the mayor doesn't stand alone. In a lot of cities, it does. to make sure to know that I am a part of a team. It's not just me, it's a board. 5 votes, you have the city manager that runs the city, the day-to-day operations. So that would be the most challenging aspect, to know that it's a team effort, including the city, and to make sure that, number one, I have to listen. My listening skills need to be impeccable. I can't be a great mayor if I'm not a great listener. So that would be my most challenging aspect, is to go in knowing that it's not just me, it's a team.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, the challenging aspect would be, I think, a quick learn, but important one is to know actually the day-to-day ins and outs of how the city handles what they do. That is really not written down in a thing that I can see prior to this election. I understand profit and loss and cost and management, so when I get on board, I will be able to look at the books and see where we're at, and either get identifications out that I don't understand, or hopefully be able to let the citizens know that things are in good hands and everything's going forward. That's something I had to do quite regularly as manager of a large company. Now, working with the existing board and the new commissioner that comes on board, well, it's a training period. It don't take very long. You got to know whose interest that at each one of them have, or what interest each one of them have. Once you kind of get that feel, then you can know when the issues come up for the city that we're supposed to help resolve or go forward with, you'll know where your people are.
Thank you. Mr. Blade.
The first thing that I would like to do would be to sit down with the city manager and find out just exactly what goes on day to day in the city. If the Board of Commissioners is going to be his supervisor, and in fact, by theory, they are, we need to understand what he does and know exactly what happens in a day-to-day operation. And that could be solved in hopefully just a couple of sit-down sessions with him. The things that I find myself most familiar with are leadership. I have created several wonderful teams within this town that have done various tasks, employers, employees, the great associations that we have with each other. The second thing that comes to my mind would be my area in finance. I know how to do budgets. I know how to implement budgets. I know how to manage budgets, and I know how to be held accountable for budgets. Thank you.
The next set of questions will be in regards to municipal government. Mr. Anderson, what do you believe is the primary duty or responsibility of a municipal government?
Well, the primary duty is to be an open representative for the citizens. And that means that you are responsible to the citizens, and you are elected by them or asked by them to stand up and for their behalf and make sure that everything that's going forward is correct, and you're spending their money correctly. Now, that takes a lot of studying, a lot of understanding, but the people, if they vote me in as mayor, they're saying, Mr. Anderson, we can't all be standing there. We need you to stand up for us and go over the books, go over the day-to-day operation of the police department, fire department, our maintenance and service people, and make sure that our city is being run correctly. Our city manager has a large task, and he is working that, as far as I can see, very well. But they've asked the mayor, along with the 4 city commissioners, that's why we have them, to be a great oversight, and that's what I would try to do.
Mr. Blade?
I believe that there are several responsibilities. The first and foremost would be the representation of the people. The Board of Commissioners and the mayor are simply your voice. We simply vote and make decisions based upon the input that you have given us that you want to happen. The second item I would say is accountability. We need to be held accountable to the budget. We need to be held accountable to you. How do we spend your money? Because it is your money that goes into the coffers as a taxpayer. We need to be fiscally responsible. We need to make for sure that we're spending those dollars in the areas in which they were appropriated. by line item budgets. And the Board of Commissioners has done a wonderful job of that in the last 2 years. And I'd like to see that continue, and if there is possible for it to get better, for it to do so. The final thing I would say is we need to support our comprehensive plan. Once it's produced and in place, we need to make for sure that we follow that to the letter, and any variance or a deviation from that needs to be well documented and a well thought out decision and reason to do so. Thank you.
Mr. Scruggs?
I would say number one primary duty is not to be irresponsible. The people would like to know how their tax dollars are being paid and not to pay the consequence for when they make mistakes, the government. Now that we're back maintaining the budget that we have, let's not spend it so fast. It's just like someone having so little for so long and finally get that first big check, now they're ready to go spend it. That's not the case that we should do here. We gotta be responsible. Primary duty also is to make sure that everything that's spent, it needs to be a logical reason to why it's being spent. If money is coming out of the pot, how much money is going in the pot? We gotta make sure the city is increasing its revenue, so when it's time to spend the money, we won't go broke. The city went broke before. Let's not ever do that again. We gotta be responsible. Every dollar spent, every citizen that lives here needs to know why.
Thank you. Mr. Scruggs, the city's current policy is to maintain a 5% reserve fund, and the city's annual budget is $6 million. Generally speaking, do you believe the reserve percentage is adequate, or should the city consider alternative reserve fund policies?
Question to?
Say that louder.
Who's the question to?
Mr. Scruggs.
The city should definitely consider alternative reserve fund policies, most definitely. One thing that I'm not a big fan of, I'm not a penny pincher, but at the same time, I like to always have logical reasons of why that money is being spent. I saw that Fairview don't own really anything. When it comes to building the revenue, it comes from tax dollars, third-party revenue from Walmart or Publix, or parking tickets. We could definitely invest in ourselves to build that revenue, so when we need anything for the children, anything when it comes to services, we have that revenue in place to get what we need for our city. We shouldn't have to reach out to other governments. If so, we could build that relationship to get grants. I see a lot of money being spent, but how are we really making that money? We shouldn't have to play the waiting game to get the revenue we need to spend the money that's in the budget. So I definitely think we should use alternative reserve funds.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Yes, sir. Well, a 5% reserve doesn't sound like a very significant amount of money, but you have to look at what the city is bringing in, what they are exposed to liability-wise. That means mandatory employees and firemen, policemen, administration of the court, and the duties of running this facility here in codes, and those items are mandatory expenditures. When you look at the other expenditures that the city has, with a $6 million budget, it may be pretty tight. Now, if you squeeze that from 5 to 6% on a $6 million budget, that might be a great squeeze to come up with that kind of money. But we won't know until we're privy to all the expenditures, money coming in, and I kind of think it's kind of, everybody looks forward to what kind of grants they can get, and I'm open for any grants that we can find, and make a major effort to go out and find some grants that we may not know of. But grants are not anything that you should be able to run your budget on, and usually when you get a grant, it's tied to a specific need or task, and so those monies are not going to come to us as stuff that we can put in our reserve.
Thank you. Mr. Blade.
I do believe that our current 5% reserve is inadequate, an adequate number based upon the budget that we currently have in place. I certainly would love to see that number be higher. But right now, due to our line item budget, it just simply cannot happen. Our goal, as if I'm elected your mayor with the commissioners, would be, again, to go down that line item budget. Are we using every penny within each of those items for what it's for? Is there a penny that we can save and put in the reserve? So yes, by all means, we certainly want to up that reserve, but we need to do that responsibly and manage it appropriately.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, the city's annual debt service is currently 4% of its annual budget. Some citizens have expressed concerns that the city roads and drainage infrastructure need significant repairs. Would you be in favor of a bond issue or other financing to fund these major repairs?
Well, the answer would be yes, if we could afford it. The evaluation of the total revenue that we have versus our expenditures would be the first thing you'd have to look at and decide. And then you would do a feasibility of whether the bond issue would be adequate, and could you retire that debt with anticipated earnings. So I would say, yes, we'd be in favor of looking at bond issues, but you just don't know until you really have a chance to look at the budget and how we are and what the cost of that bond issue would cost us over the.
Mr. Blade?
I believe before we could answer that, we would need to do our homework. We need to know what roads need to be repaired and what is the cost of those roads. Many of our city roads today are simply old county roads that have been paved over. They don't have the adequate road bed. Continuing to pave over those may not be the answer. So we may be talking $1 million for a road, or we may be talking $10 million for a road. We need to know how much money of a bond issue we would need to make. We also need to know where is the payback coming from that bond. How do we intend as a city and a municipality to work together with the revenues that we currently have to retire that bond? Because that should be our ultimate goal, is if we take a bond, we retire it as quickly as possible.
Mr. Scruggs?
Road construction isn't happening anytime soon. Way too expensive. The city can't afford it. First thing the city needs to learn is how to better invest in itself, to build the revenue to afford things of this nature. I would imply that anytime you want to elect someone that wants to be a part of your government, everyone always talking about qualifications. One of the pure qualifications to have is somebody with a financial background. When it comes to money, it isn't just simple math. It's kind of scientific. It takes a little bit of finesse to know how these things work. First thing the city should do is find things like unclaimed property, apartments that's barely getting by. The city can buy these things and get 100% revenue from these certain situations to build that revenue to use for the city roads. The city can invest in itself to make money to pay for things of this nature. So my answer is other financing. That financing that you make from investing in the city itself can pay for things of this nature, which is the road construction, because it's not happening. As Shannon Crutcher implied last week, it's not happening anytime soon. It's going to take time and patience.
Thank you. Mr. Blade, how do you believe the mayor and commissioners can best help the city staff to accomplish the goals established by the elected officials and the community?
The best way that any team can respond is to excellent leadership. If you want your team to perform, you need to give them the necessary tools, you need to give them the necessary items that enable them to be successful. Also with that comes accountability. If you give someone something, they need to be held accountable to use it wisely, make for sure that their resources are invested adequately so that we get the best return for our citizens and ultimately our taxpayers.
Thank you. Mr. Scruggs.
It's almost the same thing I said earlier. Teamwork is a proven fact that it makes everything work. Communication is always key. With the elected officials helping the community, you always got to establish that communication to get to the next goal to what you need. I believe, as the mayor, if I'm elected, that everything we talk about step to step, make sure we have an agenda to make sure those goals are met it's not going to happen if everybody's not on the same page. If there's differences, if there's other perspectives, it needs to be in an open discussion to make sure we can make all the ends meet.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Yes, well, to best help the city staff and accomplish their goals and establish, but for me, I'm an ex-military guy. I own my own company. The most important thing I believe in is chain of command. Chain of command, it creates a team, but you don't go out and step over the top of the city manager. You don't go try to step around the head of the police department or the head of the fire department. You work within that goals and with those people, and you try to communicate with them and let them know you're open to listen. But you work as a team, and you work through the chain of command, and the mayor and the Board of Commissioners all have a responsibility to evaluate things and work out the goals of the staff through that facility or through that chain. So I think we will be great help to the staff. We will be great support to the staff, or I will be. But I also want to make sure that I know the chain of command, and if you undermine one of your leaders of your city, you really do not help yourself or the city in the way it operates.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, actions by the Williamson County Commission and the Williamson County School Board can have significant impacts on the city of Fairview. How do you believe the city can improve its relationship with these agencies and make its voice heard?
Wow. When you have an independent school system run by the Williamson County, which is a fabulous school system, and I mean that with every word I can say, but you have to have interaction with them, you have to communicate with them, and you need to make sure that you are on board to find out what things that they wish to change or improve on. The schools in this area are by far much better than other areas around us. So working with the county is going to be a very important thing. You've got a county mayor, and you have other cities within this county. So the communications with them is paramount.
Mr. Blade.
Again, anytime you want to foster a new relationship, you need to be proactive in developing that relationship. We need to show up. We need to be at their meetings. We need to let them know that the city of Fairview is here, and we need and want and deserve to be heard. And we need to do that in a very proactive, respectful fashion so that they say, yes, they are here. They do need to be represented. Let's work together with them. I have a good relationship with both of our county commissioners and also with our school board representative, and have spoken to each of those about this already.
Mr. Scruggs.
I think it's awesome to have a relationship, but first thing first, have them right here present in the city. Let them know what the problems are, what the situation is in the city of Fairview. Instead of us going to them, make them come to us. Because if we have a concern, how can they see what their concern is if they're not present here in the city? I shouldn't have to go to Franklin or Spring Hill for a concern of Fairview. If we have a meeting, building that relationship with the county mayor, see if he can presently come to the city, come see us, go to the schools, come to the city, show him what's what, so we can all get on the same page, at the same time building a professional business relationship so we can make things more kosher.
Thank you. Mr. Blade, what area of city services would you most like to see improved, and what improvements of those services would you suggest?
We need to make for sure that as our city grows, that we have adequate protection for our citizens. We need to make for sure that our fire department has the equipment that it needs and the manpower that it needs. Likewise, we need to make for sure that our police department is well-staffed by competent officers that recognize who they serve and why they serve, and make for sure they have the equipment that they need. We must protect ourselves, and we must protect our community. So safety would be my my major concern there.
Thank you. Mr. Scruggs.
With growth comes higher crime. With growth comes more people hurt. With growth comes more fires. We need the manpower before that growth. We don't have a full-fledged hospital, but we also don't have a full-fledged 24-hour clinic for emergency services. I would like to see that type of service. I would like to see more police officers. I would like to see more firefighters before we build on any type of growth that Fairview intends to have. No manpower will cause chaos. If we have a higher crime and we're short-staffed on police officers, how does that look? If we have multiple fires and not the manpower of firefighters, chaos. People are hurt and they can't get treatment here and they die before they go to Dixon or Nashville. It's because we don't have that service. We didn't plan ahead. We can't wait till the last minute to have these type of services. Manpower is a must in all these areas before we intend on any type of growth for the city of Fairview.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
As the other two gentlemen mentioned, our police department and our fire department, from what I have been told, are manned adequately, and I think there's a formula for a population for a police officer that our Scott has tried to maintain. We have a volunteer fire department section out on the 96 area that everyone would love to be able to fully man. I think that financially that's a little ways away. We have to have the growth in order for that to occur. Also, but if I was going to have the money and we could and we would be able to respond to some issues, I think the pothole repair in the roads throughout the winter that pop up on some of our very inadequate streets like Old Nashville Highway and Horn Tavern Road as such, those things need to be addressed a little quicker if we can. Also, the stormwater issue, because we are a city that's bordered by a lot of rural creeks and roads and stuff, sometimes we have some major issues of water and debris after a major storm, and I hope we'll be able to address those issues quicker.
Thank you.
The next series of questions will have a focus on growth and development. Mr. Scruggs, what type of new retail development would you like to see most in Fairview?
Retail development mostly for the kids. When it comes to shopping for the children, you have to leave Fairview. If it's not Walmart, the options is not versatile. So the first retail development is mostly for the children I would like to see. Walmart seems to be a one-stop shop right now. So I would like to see that when it comes to anything retail, it's mostly for the kids first. Kids first, everybody else next. So to answer your question, that's the number one retail development I would like to see is more option, whether it's clothes, entertainment. I would like to see more of that for the children, so they won't have to commute to have that type of entertainment, to do whatever they please.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes, retail development is a private enterprise operation, so if we can expand our funding and support of our Chamber of Commerce, hopefully we can do some evaluations and reach out to different retail establishments and show them that they could have an opportunity for customers in the Fairview community. They will make those decisions. We will not be able to, but through the Chamber of Commerce and through the Board of Commissioners, we all need to make an exerted efforts to take every opportunity to go to any kind of work session to find out who is thinking about moving or expanding and let them know what we have here. I think we do have a need for retail in the commercial sales, but they have to make that decision. So we need to just get out there and show what Fairview is, show what kind of spending power that the citizens have, and let them know what we are capable of doing. It could be something going along with the truck industry out at the edge of 96, to the little boutique over by Publix. All of those things are great for our community. The more of those we have, the better the city will grow.
And Mr. Blade?
Obviously, the more retail development that we have, the better services that we'll be able to offer our citizens. Again, this takes me back to our comprehensive plan that we're currently undergoing in that process. It will enable us to know where retail development can occur and the sites that are available for it to occur. Also go back to the corporation versus the mom and pop businesses. Fairview was built on mom and pop businesses. We need to make for sure that we adequately support their right to do business in our town as well as our corporate partners.
Thank you. Mr. Blade, do you believe Fairview residential growth is currently too fast, too slow, or somewhere in the middle? And why do you believe this?
I believe that Fairview's current residential growth is as it is. We are currently limited by our sewer system to continue to develop and bring on new subdivisions unless we get into uncharted waters with step systems and things of that nature. I would like to see Fairview grow, but I would like to see Fairview grow in a smart, calculated, and dictated way. And that way will be enforced and envisioned by our comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Mr. Scruggs.
I would say somewhere in the middle, like Mr. Blade said about the sewer problem. Things can be adjusted to accommodate for that. With the low-income apartments we have here, I don't know if those people gonna get pushed out when it comes to the growth here. If we vote for a higher lifestyle, everyone is promoting the growth of Fairview. What I'm worried about is who's gonna get left behind. And when it comes to somewhere in the middle, the people that already can't move here, that wants to be here, they can afford it, but we don't have the residential areas for them. We don't have the apartment complexes, we don't have the homes. So I would love to see that type of growth within the city, not to be expanded. We can use what we already have. So I would love to see us do something with the low-income apartments and rebuild and expand on that so it can be able to afford to live there. People of all walks of life, whether you make too much money, low income, or you can afford it. I lived in Bellevue for 4 years. Anyone can live in Bellevue as long as you make the income you're supposed to have to afford the apartment. It didn't matter if you made $30,000 a year or if you made too much money. If you can afford to live there, you can. I would like to see that for the same residential areas here.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Yes, well, the speed of growth in Fairview, I think, has been majorly stymied by the inadequate or indecisive development plans that we had. And so the time it was taken to create the proper development guidelines for the people that want to develop here. We have several companies from different price ranges that are willing to come to Fairview right now. And so when they come after the first of the year, we should have the guidelines in place for them to help Fairview grow in a very stable and organized fashion. I don't think we've been actually up to speed on the way the city should grow. I have a lot of people that asked me or told me that they didn't like growth. They wanted the little town to remain the same. I can see that and I can understand that, but that will not happen. The honest fact is the city is going to grow. It can't not just stagnate. So I do believe that the development plan, the 2040 plan, when that's complete, that's going to be a great guideline for the future. But for the immediate future, we do have a new development guidelines that are ready to be used.
Thank you. Mr. Scruggs, in your opinion, do you believe the city should focus more on residential development or retail development, and why?
I think the city should focus on residential development. There's not enough places to live here. It's not. I've dealt with so many people that live here in finance that can barely afford it. and people that work here, that want to live here, that can't find a place to stay. If we grow retail development, we get those new businesses, those business owners and those employees not gonna be able to have a home here. They gotta drive from Dixon, White Bluff, Kingston Springs, Bellevue, Middle Nashville, if they happen to get an employee job here. I would love to see a residential development first. That's my personal opinion. That's what I think.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, the city should focus on, you can't focus on developments, whether it be commercial or residential. Those things will pretty much come to you. You want to make sure that, and I think we are now, ready to help them find the right property and develop either residential or commercial. But as it's been mentioned for the residential, the sad part of the fact is inflation has caused basically a starter new home in this area is started at $300,000. You can buy an older home below that price, but if you're going to get a brand new home, unless it's in a PUD or a townhome thing, as it stands today, $300,000. Now that's a lot of money, and the people that are coming here for service jobs are not going to make that kind of money. So for a developer to come in and do a Section 8 or a low-income project, the land is here, the opportunity is here. But it takes those kind of things and people that want to do that. So we will have our door open, and we will try to solicit both retail and residential.
Thank you. Mr. Blade.
Retail development will not occur without residential development. Most companies, when they factor into a community, do we want to be there, they count the rooftops. How many rooftops are there? How many citizens are there? How many citizens go outside of the city to work? How many go outside to buy services that may not already be in the city of Fairview? If we don't focus on residential growth, we will not have retail growth.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, the mayor has the option of serving on the city's planning commission or appointing a member to serve in that seat. Would you serve on the planning commission or appoint someone else to serve, and why?
Well, I'm on the planning commission board right now, and I would not like to give up that seat. I really enjoy the fact that you're kind of on the front line of what's going to happen to the city, and you can help guide the rest of the people that are on the board with you, but you also will know the background of what's going to happen when you get before the Board of Commissioners. So I would definitely say I would want to stay on that board.
Thank you. Mr. Blade.
I would definitely keep my seat once I gained it on the planning commission. The mayor needs to have his or her thumb on the pulse of what's happening and be engaged in making the adequate decisions of what development comes, how is it structured? Are we making for sure we have connectivity with our back roads and have accesses around Highway 196? As I get back to our safety concern, if we have a fire at Taylor Road and a fire at the high school, and it's at 5 p.m. on Friday, there's no way that fire truck can get from Taylor Road to the high school, and that deeply concerns me.
Thank you. Mr. Scruggs.
Mayor should definitely be on the planning commission. How you gonna speak on what's going on in the city when it comes to the planning commission if you're not on the planning commission yourself? You letting someone else do the work for you. You should never let someone do the labor and you take the credit. So I definitely think the mayor should be on the planning commission, point blank.
Thank you. Mr. Scruggs, traffic is a perpetual topic in Fairview. Do you believe the current speed limits on Highway 100 and Highway 96 are appropriate, or should they be reviewed? What changes, if any, would you propose?
They should definitely be reviewed. They should be changed. I think the speed limit is too slow, to be honest. I don't know if it's a money thing to get more speeding tickets for the city to earn more revenue, but slow speed limit causes more traffic. Only thing that's pro of it is it causes less accidents. Definitely should have better drivers, but I definitely think the speed limit is way too low. I've heard from many citizens here that the speed limit is too low. Those citizens are going to one day be my boss if I'm elected. And what they say goes. Depends on how people feels about the speed limit. I'm always going to take the majority's advice.
Mr. Anderson.
I think everyone I talked to brought up something about the speed limits. The varied speed limits up and down, I think, is more of the issue than the low speeds or the real low speeds. But yeah, if you get outside of Fairview and you can get into communities or areas that are similar to this, and the road like Highway 96, the speed limit's usually 55. Once you get past the community center, that to me needs to be 55. I understand slowing down to 35 at the intersection for Cloverland, but running 40 and stuff, it constantly changing. Everybody has seen a lot of police cars sitting in the weeds back in September and October, and they think it's all out there for speed trap, whether it is or not.
Mr. Blade.
I believe that we need to remember that both Highway 100 and Highway 96 are state roads. They are owned by TDOT. There are certain sections of those roads that TDOT has said you will have a speed limit of 35, and therefore we must comply to that. I am not opposed to reviewing the other speed limits that the citizens might have questions about, but those TDOT imposed speed limits cannot be changed by the city of Fairview.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, the city's 2040 comprehensive plan will be completed in the spring of 2019. What do you believe will be the most important for the city's elected officials to do to ensure the success of the new plan?
The simple phrase is follow it. All cities, I worked in Lexington, Kentucky back in the early 80s, and they were adamant about following their 20-year plan and the 5-year increments about it. But they also controlled their water and their sewer. Even though their water system was a privately owned system, they controlled the growth of it. You have to follow the plan. If the thing is completed correctly, which I believe it will, you're going to know where the best land for industrial, the best land for heavy commercial, and for light commercial shops, stuff. This will be ferreted out. Also, the traffic flow is a major issue for where those different businesses and living developments would be. It's a good system. They will look at the undulation of the land here. That's one thing that kind of holds Fairview back. It's very hilly. You got a lot of major blue line ditches or creeks and streams around here that have to be protected. And we will have a good plan for the commercial, the residential, the townhomes, whether it be a large lot development or small lot developments. All that can be set up by the way the people have interacted in these meetings. So I think if the only thing it can say simply is follow the plan.
Thank you. Mr. Blade.
The Board of Commissioners will need to understand the plan. They will need to know what it says and what it means in order for it to be followed. The second thing we would need to do is embrace the plan. Is it going to take us in the right direction? And I believe that it will. The third thing would be implement the plan. And the final thing, be held accountable to the plan and make for sure that we're following it in its entirety.
Thank you. Mr. Scruggs.
I think the success of the new plan is to make sure that all parties involved is a win-win for everybody, the consumers, the government, and the business owners. Everyone needs to be motivated for what's going on with the plan for 2040, for 2019. For the consumers, make sure the supply and demand is there, simple supply and demand. If there's no demand, why supply it? So any business that comes in, make sure some type of revenue can be made for the government. The consumers have the demand there for us to supply it, and the business owners and employees are motivated where they're making the budget that they need to make sure they want to come to work every day to supply that product. Should be a win-win for all parties involved to complete the success.
Thank you.
Mr. Blade, what would you propose to improve recreational opportunities in Fairview, and how would you fund any improvements?
Currently, our recreational opportunities in the city are basically from Williamson County Parks and Recreation. We need, again, to show up at their meetings. We need to let them know we are still out here. We are still Fairview. We need to have the recreational facilities and uses of things that Franklin does, that Brentwood does, that Nolensville does. The funding of those things, possibly we look into grants and see if they're matching funds, that if the city had the money to implement a strategy for recreational opportunities, if we could find matching funds within the grant system.
Mr. Scruggs?
Those opportunities are definitely something that when we improve with the funding, is to make sure everything that we service to the city when it comes to that is helping us build the income that we need so we can fund it, maintain it. We're not dipping to any type of budget that we don't have. Anything that we service, the government should be making money from it to help the maintenance of that recreational opportunity.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes, a lot of the recreational things that are in and around us are county-related, but the city has one of the finest private parks in this part of Tennessee with Bowie Park. I would try to push to see if whatever monies we can find to upgrade the what I call the play park, the play area. It's in dire need of some upgrades, and it's a fun place. Our grandkids love it. Also, within the park, which I don't know if they've talked about it or talked against it, but I've heard a lot of people wanting a dog park. So if there's an area in there that could not take away from the grassy parking area, I would like to see us try to get a dog park in there and maintain that so that people can bring their dogs and let them play. The other thing that we have, our city's in the process of building a Veterans Memorial down by the lake. That is just getting started. There needs to be some improvement about the road appearance to the area, and so that people can find it easier. But that is going to be a very positive thing. That lake will look pretty in the next 3 or 4 years. Also, the city owns 19 acres or 17 acres down 96, what I understand. I'd like to see if we can figure out a way to utilize that land.
Thank you. The next series of questions are the closing questions. So, Mr. Scruggs, of all of the issues or concerns the citizens of Fairview have expressed to you during your campaign, which ones surprised you the most?
Citizens that are leaving the city of Fairview that love it here. It is sad to hear on a daily basis that people love it here. They can afford to be here, but they no longer want to be here because there's way too many people. The congestion is killing them. They can't get to where they want to go. They can't use what they want to use, and they can't live where they want to live. With the growth of Fairview, it's making where people can't afford it anymore. At the same time, I hate that people are leaving a city that they love. It sickens me. It's sad. And I want to do everything that I can do possible to keep that from happening for the future people that may feel the same way.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Well, the major things I think that surprised, if you want to use the word surprised me, was the people's either not knowledge or not being aware of where the city is financially. The city had some problems a few years back. The citizens are not aware that they're out of the woods and everything is starting to be on a level keel. That surprised me, I think, most. The other one was there's been some incidents with the police officers. So some people are trying to let me know that they want to make sure that those police officers are trained adequately, and the people that we've hired are level-headed when they get into situations. Police officers and the fire department are very dangerous operations. And those people need to be trained correctly and show the public that they are on their side.
Thank you. Mr. Blade.
My issue would be financial accountability. I was surprised at the number of citizens that did not realize that the city had a website or that the city had the financials posted on the website, did not know how to address any concern that they might have. And my answer to that was pick up the telephone, call your commissioner, call your mayor, be heard.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, please describe what you would consider to be a successful term as the mayor of Fairview.
A successful term as mayor of Fairview. Well, I think if the day I walk out of here, that I can feel that I have given the city 100%, that I have improved it. I've gone through life building and developing things like community centers and assisted living. And when I walk away, I know that those things are going to stand as things that I've done in a positive manner. This time, I'm hoping to build a better city. I want to build a city that the people that do live here like it, happy, and understand how the city works within the people that they have hired to perform the task on their behalf. If I can walk out of here with a smile on my back and the people are more informed, the city is running smoothly or more smoothly, depending on what the situation is, that would be a great day for me.
Mr. Blade.
That my last day in office, I had the same integrity and character and service as my first day in office. That I left knowing the city was better because I was here.
Mr. Scruggs.
That I helped rebuild the trust in government. That I helped rebuild integrity in the government. And when we move forward, I know that I took everyone with me. Whether you have no money, a little money, or a lot of money. And at the end of the day, the only people that's left is the people that can afford it. Equal opportunity is a must. That's what I say. At the end of the term as mayor, to be successful is to build a trust, integrity, and make sure we have equal opportunity for all financial people that's involved.
Thank you. So, now each candidate will have 3 minutes to state any concluding remarks about their campaign platform and vision for Fairview. Mr. Blade.
If I'm elected your mayor, it will be my honor to serve you. It will be my honor to represent you. I will do that in a deliberate, calculated, honorable fashion. In the past couple of weeks, there's been some traffic on Facebook regarding conflict of interest. I wish I could look at each one of you in the face as I make this statement, but unfortunately I can't. So I'll just peruse around. If at any time there is any issue that arises that I, the city manager, or the city attorney believe is a conflict of interest, I will immediately recuse myself, as other commissioners and other mayors have done in the past. Conflict of interest is not going to be any type of situation that will hinder me from serving you. And I want to get that out just as plain as I can make it. I have enjoyed getting to meet all of you that I don't know. I look forward to meeting more of you that I don't know. For all of you that I do know, I thank you for your support. I thank you for your kindness to me during my campaign. I'd like to thank Scott Collins and the City of Fairview for hosting this event, for Elizabeth and for Cole for moderating. And again, if you want honest, proven leadership, I'm your man.
Thank you. Mr. Scruggs.
I would like to apologize to the city of Fairview. I'm sorry that I can't give you political answers. All I can do is speak from the heart. I've been serving all my life. That's all I have done. That's all I think I can do. That's my whole point of being here on this earth. If you elect me as your mayor, I made a complete vow of no conflicts of interest. I have no deep relationship with absolutely anyone here in Fairview. Any inquiry or concern will be a complete professional conversation. Anything that happens, we can always move forward with anything we do here. I take no compensation for being your mayor. I have absolutely anything to gain. When I was in the Air Force, all I wanted to do was do the right thing. I stand by that, being your mayor. You elect me, I'm here for you no matter what. No conflicts of interest, no compensation. I'm young, I have the energy. All I'm here for is to serve you and give you my heart. Thank you so much for your time. I'm truly grateful, and I thank you so much. I love you all.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Well, yes, if I'm elected, I certainly have, as I have mentioned, I'm retired. I want to give 100%. I'm the only one here who has borrowed money from all the banks that I could borrow. I had a $56 million contract, and we borrowed the money from Canadian Bank through Toyo Bank in Japan, and we paid it all back. And so my career has been building and developing and borrowing money and paying it back. My competition both work at a bank. I will not have to worry about excusing myself from anything that goes on a business of the city. I am free. I do not have any construction ties with any subcontractors, any suppliers, or anyone that would be interacting with the city. So I will be here to vote on all issues for the city. And I think that's important. I understand how the mechanics of finance work, probably more than the average guy, but I know how to work with people, and I enjoy working with people, and I want to do some more building, and that building is the city of Fairview, and make the citizens happy, and that's my task.
Thank you. Again, I would like to thank you all attendants and everyone for participating in tonight's forum. I would just like to remind everyone that early voting is underway and ends Thursday, and Election Day is Tuesday, November 6th, and get out to vote. Thank you.